Mathis & Associates, Keller Williams 1, Greensboro, North Carolina. And I wanted to come back with a video today that's focused more towards my buyers out there who may be considering purchasing in the near future and might be wondering how to budget for closing costs. So there's a lot of different costs that go into purchasing a house. When you're looking at closing costs, these are things that are usually going to be paid on the day of closing. That does not include your down payment. So if you're thinking that the down payment is enrolled in your closing costs, it's actually considered part of your cash to close, or the amount of money you're bringing to the closing table. But your closing costs are going to be a separate amount. So included in that would be your loan origination fee, which is usually around 1% of the cost of the loan. This is what the lender charges you to process your loan and to give you the money for the house. And so if we're looking at a $200,000 house, your loan origination fee is probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,000. In our area, Greensboro, North Carolina, closing attorney costs usually range about $1,000, so you'll have another $1,000 on top of that. Other things that might be considered part of your cost to or your closing fees would be the appraisal fee. This may or may not be charged before the closing, but at the latest it would be charged at the closing. Deed preparation and sales tax, that's going to be charged as a closing cost. Escrowing any amount of money for homeowners insurance and for the remaining property tax for the rest of the year. So this is done because the lender is basically going to be holding on to that amount, and they'll be issuing any payments that are due to your homeowners insurance company or to the city, county, or state for property taxes at the end of the year when the bills come due. That's why it's always important that anytime you switch your homeowners insurance company, let your lender know so they're making the checks out to the right folks. So those are a few things that are included in your closing costs. Some things that are not included in the closing costs are any services that are done by vendors before the closing. So that would be any types of inspections. If you're doing a home inspection, septic and well inspection, termite inspection, maybe you had a survey done on the land so you know exactly where your boundaries are for the property. Those usually would be something that are payable and due before the closing, unless you can work it out with the vendor to include that in your closing cost. Keep in mind that that will always kind of raise your amount of closing costs if they're willing to accept the payment on the closing day. And the closing attorney handles any of these fees and closing costs that are rolled in. They take the lump sum from you and from the lender, and then they issue payments to everybody who needs it. So it's not like you're sitting there cutting 5, 10, 12 checks at the closing table. All of that's going to be taken care of by your closing attorney. Down payment, that's not considered part of your closing costs. So it's in addition to your closing costs, and again, that brings it to the cash to close. So to give you an idea of what you might be looking at for, say, a $200,000 house, on average, you'll be looking at somewhere between about $5,000 to $8,000 in closing costs. If you factor that in with the cost of your down payment, say you have a 5% down payment, which would be $10,000, you'd be looking at around $15,000 to $18,000 plus as far as your closing costs go. That can definitely fluctuate depending on any sort of negotiations you did with the seller for the seller to pay any portion of your closing costs. It can be determined by how much your down payment is, as well as any other fees that might be associated, because there may be a transfer fee for the HOA if there's an HOA. There may be other liens on the property depending on if you're buying the house from a seller or if it's a foreclosure. So you definitely want to keep those things in mind. Make sure you're asking those questions to your lender. Make sure you're asking those questions to your agent so you know exactly what you can look forward to as far as the total costs go. If you guys got any questions for me though, all my contact information is right at the end of the video. I look forward to hearing from you and seeing you next time. Have a great day.